Hello, I'm Robin Reed, Extension Farm Economist with Kansas State University Agricultural Economics. Today, I'm going to walk you through a tool that can help producers decide between agricultural risk coverage and price loss coverage programs through the Farm Service Agency. This tool is available on our website, agmanager.info, under the Ag Policy section and the Farm Bill. We call this tool the trade-off spreadsheet, and there is one for each year. You can see the one that I'm looking at here is the decision for the crop harvested in 2026 that the marketing year will run through 2027. Here is the picture of what the spreadsheet looks like when you download it. The purpose is not to predict exactly what will happen, but to help producers understand the trade-offs between agricultural risk coverage and price loss coverage under different price and yield scenarios. The spreadsheet is designed to work for every state, every county, and every covered commodity that the Farm Service Agency has released data for. Now, the one thing that gets a little tricky is the irrigation type. Some counties have an irrigated and non-irrigated designation, and some counties are combined. So if you pick an irrigation type and your table goes to not available, that is because the county and the crop that you picked is not the correct irrigation type. So now that I've switched it to non-irrigated, you can see that Saline County, Kansas corn has data. Now, the way that this works, if you have both irrigated and dryland crops in your farm, your non-irrigated and irrigated ARC County would be blended into a single payment. More detail on that is available on our website, but just know that is how this works, but we are evaluating each decision separately. So to get started with this tool, what you want to do is first look at the information for both programs. The agricultural risk coverage information is here, and you can see the first number is the Olympic average county yield. So that is what is setting the yield guarantee side of the agricultural risk coverage. The next piece is the price, and this is an Olympic average of national corn prices. So if you multiply those two together, that is your benchmark revenue for this year's corn crop. Now, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act made it to where the guarantee is 90% of that benchmark. So if both yield or price multiplied together fall below this threshold, then that's when you start getting an ARC County payment. On the price loss coverage side, it's a little simpler in that the only components are the program yield of the farm. I have that in yellow because that is something in the spreadsheet that you should and can change. That is the individual yield of the farm that is established with the Farm Service Agency and does not change. So this defaults to the county average program yield, but you want to type in your own farm's program yield, and that way the price loss coverage payments are specific to your own farm. The other component is the effective reference price, and this is just simply the threshold when price loss coverage starts paying. And this is set in statute in the Farm Bill. It does fluctuate year to year, but this is the one that will be for the 2026 and 2027 marketing year. So once you get those set to your county and your crop in your irrigation type, then you can start looking at the table. And the heart of the table is really this trade-off spreadsheet. The table lays out a range of possible marketing year average prices, which represents what could happen during the coming marketing year that will determine these program payments. So let's look at price loss coverage first. So the effective reference price is 442. You can see that in the table underlined in red, and you can see the PLC payments start growing as the price drops below 442. Now again, you want to put in your own program yield, and those payments will be specific to your farm. The majority of the rest of the table is the ARC County payments. And these are both dependent, obviously, on price, but also on county yield. So you can see the different ranges of prices and the possible county yields. So as you look at these numbers in the table, these are per acre payment amounts. So how you think about that is those will be paid on 85% of your base acres in this crop. Now I know that's a little confusing. So how that works is your base acres are established on your farm, they're tied to different crops, and you are paid based on what those base acres are assigned to, not what you have been planting. So again, these are per acre payments on 85% of your base acres in this crop. Now, 2026 is a bit unique in that we have planted this crop, or in the case of wheat or some of our spring crops, we've even harvested this crop before we're making these decisions between ARC and PLC. For that reason, I added a feature to the table this year that shows you your county yield history. And this is county yields released by Farm Service Agency. They are trend adjusted back in time, and low yielding years are replaced. So these are the county yield history that FSA is using, however. And the reason I put this on there is to help you evaluate what is the possible yield of your county this year, knowing a little bit about your own farm and the possible moisture conditions and how good of a growing season it could have been. So let's look at this Saline County corn example here. If we have an average yield, so 91 bushels is our Olympic average county yield, you can see that an ARC County payment does not start until we get to this price here. So somewhere around 442, we'll start seeing ARC County payments. Now, again, we know something about this growing season. Maybe it's an above average. We can tell that based on our crop conditions in the county. Maybe it's not quite as good as last year. If we had as good a corn as we had last year, we'd be off the charts. And an ARC County payment would be highly unlikely unless we got into a very low price scenario. But what if it's a below average year? What if we have a crop such as we did in 2022 and 2023? You can see here that the payments start occurring at a much higher marketing your average price level. So again, this is a way to evaluate which program would be better. And again, knowing something about yield has been a big advantage in the 2026 decision. So for this county, again, having our program yield in there, we're going to be starting to get payments at 442, but depending on what the county yield comes in at, we can actually have much larger ARC County payments if we have a below average county yield. Now, there is a number in the table here that I want to highlight. This shows at the price below 387, PLC will pay more than ARC County. And that is because ARC County has a maximum payment limit of 12% of this benchmark revenue. So the most we can get out of ARC County is $54.66 per acre. So if we have a below average yield, even at a higher price, we can get that amount. But PLC with this program yield will surpass that amount if price gets below 387. So one of the biggest cautions when making this analysis is obviously we don't know much about these marketing or average prices. I do have a link here that is updated each month with all of the different sources of the marketing or average price predictions. So when you're doing this analysis, look at this and kind of get a better idea of where these prices may be headed. But again, this is still a big uncertainty. So in conclusion, a useful way to do this analysis and think about this decision is what risk are you wanting to protect? Price loss coverage gives that stronger risk protection if prices drop very low. You can see the program payments keep building. ARC County, on the other hand, does hit a maximum payment limit, but if we were kind of at the threshold of when program payments may or not be starting, we could see some substantial payments if the county has a lower than average yield. And that is one of the advantages of ARC County in this price environment. The key to understanding the range of possible outcomes is looking at these different price and yield scenarios rather than focusing on one single outcome. Again, you can find this tool and additional Farm Bill resources on our website, agmanager.info, under the Ag Policy section.